So today we're talking about misconceptions and myths surrounding personal injury law and setting the record straight, right? So the most common misconception when it comes to personal injury lawsuits is that it's an easy way to make $1 million or to get rich, or filing a lawsuit is the litigation lottery. There's a defense attorney in town here who likes to put up a check in front of the jury at closing arguments at trial that says frivolous lawsuit, $1 million lawsuit, lottery ticket. It's not like that. So I'm going to tell you a story that kind of illustrates this. We had a case where it was a car accident on the interstate and two people died. One person was seriously injured. And all the money that was available to compensate the families of everyone involved in that tragic accident was $50,000. Now, why was it only $50,000? Because that's how much car insurance was available on that vehicle. That was the most money anybody could get. There was no $1 million. So if you think that there's $1 million lawsuit around the corner, the next time you're on the road, take a look around and say, how much car insurance do you think the guy or girl next to me has? You look at their car. Do you think they have more than 50,000? I mean, most states, its minimum limits are like 25,000. Some states even 15,000. Who's got $1 million? Maybe some big businesses, and they've got their whole arguments for why there shouldn't be personal injury lawsuits, which are really just arguments for why they shouldn't have to pay full value for the injuries that they cause. But that's a different conversation. The point is simply that it's really hard to even find someone with $1 million to sue. The second reason that this litigation lottery or frivolous lawsuit, free $1 million kind of myth is a myth is that filing a lawsuit and going through the process of personal injury case is actually quite difficult. It's time consuming, it's emotionally draining. In many cases, if you're calling us, right, something terrible has happened to you, and the only thing we can get you probably is money. But if you could make the choice up front to have the money or have the terrible thing not happen to you, every single time our clients would say, yeah, I'd rather not have gone through what I just went through rather than get money to be basically paid for going through it, right? So it's hard. And in many cases, the defense will blame you. They will blame the plaintiff. They will blame you and your family for the horrible thing that happened to you. They'll find some way to make it your fault. And that can be an emotionally traumatizing, frankly, experience, especially in some, more contentious cases, just a trigger warning, sexual assault cases. In those types of cases, what were you asking victims what they were wearing? This sort of thing. And blaming them for their own victimization. So it's not an easy process to go through a lawsuit. And it's a big misconception that it's just call the guy on the billboard and you'll get $1 million. So this brings me to the second misconception, which is one I deal with all the time with my own clients, which is that you can just quote unquote go to court. I think, people watch My Cousin Vinny or Suits or whatever, and they see A Few Good Men, and they see, courtroom drama. And I think that's what it's like when you hire a lawyer. And the reality is overwhelmingly like 90% of cases settle, and the number of cases or percentage of cases that go to actual trial, go to court, is infinitesimally small compared to the number of lawsuits that are filed. There are stages of a lawsuit where your case has to sort of survive before you can keep going and even possibly get to a trial, get to court. I've got a video on one of those phases, which is called summary judgment. That's a big hurdle in a lot of personal injury cases that the plaintiffs will have to clear. After all of the discovery is done, the defense can try to throw your case out before you even go to court. So you don't have some sort of absolute right to get to court. You have to clear certain procedural hurdles, and often as you do clear those hurdles, then the price of settlement goes up, and then that's typically where cases resolve one way or the other. So myth number 3 is that workers' compensation is your only option if you're injured at work. There are situations where if you're injured at work, you can't sue your employer, and you're going to be stuck with whatever workers' compensation will pay you. But that's not always the case, even if you're injured at work, even if you're injured on a job site. So an example of that is we had a case where a forklift driver at a job site was hit by a car, and we were able to file a suit against the driver of the car, the employer of that driver, and also the company that was responsible for the gate system, because we alleged it was sort of a negligent design. So this was clearly a workplace injury, and this plaintiff did in fact get workers' comp coverage to pay for his medical bills and certain lost wages and things like that. But full compensation for his personal injury damages, we were able to pursue that against those other entities. So we were able to recover even though he was injured at work, because the wrongdoers weren't his employer. So just keep that in mind. Workplace injuries, construction accidents, even assaults at work might be able to sue somebody if you have that type of situation. So the next myth is that small injuries or sort of low dollar injuries are not worth pursuing. And the reason this is a myth is that certain injuries may seem small. For example, maybe all you got was an x-ray, but maybe the reason that you got the x-ray is because some teacher abused your child at school. Well, now we're not really talking about the injuries being financially tied to medical records and medical bills. We're talking about really outrageous conduct. So when you have sort of egregious behavior, even if it doesn't cost you a lot of money, that is still worth pursuing and can be significant recoveries in those cases, because essentially what we're focusing on is the harmful behavior of the defendant, the outrageous conduct, holding them accountable for really bad behavior. And in many cases where that's happened, there's not going to be a direct correlation between medical expenses or out-of-pocket losses and the wrongful conduct. It's not like a car wreck case, right, where someone runs a red light or a stop sign. Okay, that was negligent, so what's that worth? And you can kind of have a rational conversation about dollar figures. In certain cases, the dollar figure has no reasonable relationship to the actual value of the case. So just keep that in mind, that there are some cases where what we're really focused on is essentially punishing bad behavior. So I hope this video has been helpful in explaining certain personal injury myths. I might expand this into another video because there's many more to cover, but those are some of the biggest ones that I think you should pay attention to. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching.